not prepared!
Welcome to another top 5 with Kris 05, guys. Today I'm gonna give you the best performing decks in March, in the new Onyxia's Lair meta. The meta definitely looks pretty stable, and there are a lot of very good decks out there which you really need to know about. And as always, I'm gonna give you their mulligan guides, their overall strategy, matchups, and also what are the other best performing decks for each class. So stick around to the end. Starting off with the first deck on the list, which must be Burn Shaman. Burn Shaman is one of the best decks, if not the best deck out there right now, and it's really powerful. Like, it has so much versatility, and the fact that it can kill you from hand as soon as turn 6 or 7, if it high rolls enough, is just completely absurd. The deck is definitely not simple to pilot, but if you get the hang of it, you're definitely gonna be on easy street with it. You can check out my last video for a detailed guide with it, as well as some gameplay in High Legend too. This version is slightly different, not running Fireheart, which does feel like a good card in this one, but honestly, the deck without her feels great as well, because you get to fit in an extra Wind Chill, which is an extra frost spell for your multicaster, and also card draw and a control tool. What you want to do with this deck is either tempo hard, or stall out the game long enough so you can kill your opponent from hand. In both scenarios, you have very powerful tools to do so. You have a ton of card draw, you have a ton of board presence as well with Wild Paw Caverns, especially if you manage to coin them out early as soon as turn 1 or 2. And let's not forget you have a ton of damage from hand with all of the spell para minions you have, all of the overload cards you have, and overdraft to boot, which can be above 10 damage usually. If you're playing against aggro, you can board lock the opponent with Snowfall Guardians into Brilliant Macaws, which is an effective 4-turn absolute board lock, making your opponent not be able to do absolutely anything if they filled the board with minions, so that is a very good strategy for you as well. You could also do stuff like Zapper into Landslide, which is effectively killing anything with 4 health and even Death Rattles too. You have Frostbite to stall out some spell heavy decks as well. And we even have room for a Ruster Viper. Matchup wise, as you can see, the only decks that have a chance against you would be Questfell Demon Hunter, and also Quest Hunter and Control and Charge Warriors would be pretty strong against you. Mulligan wise, this is what it looks like when you're going first. Bloom and Wild Paw Caverns are an absolutely insane early turn, and it's usually enough to win you the game alone. Sleetbreaker is your best 2-drop you could be hoping for, and Multicaster is pretty good as well, but make sure not to keep both Multicaster and Wild Paw Caverns when you're going first. When going second, the situation is pretty similar, and here you could even do a turn 1 Wild Paw Caverns with only a Lightning Bloom and your coin. Overdraft I usually don't really keep early on, but technically you could keep it, especially if you already have Bloom in this. Sleetbreaker is still pretty good, a Landslide depending on the matchup, and so on and so forth. You can see these stats and make your choices. All in all, the deck is pretty cheap and it only has one legendary in there, which is Brucon, and he is definitely worth and he's not rotating out. As you can see, for other good Shaman decks, Burn Shaman really takes the cake. But we also have Bolner Shaman, Aggro Elemental Shaman, and Quest Shaman as well, and these are all above 55% win rate. Before we get into the next deck, I'd like to share something with you guys. I've actually been a full-time YouTube creator and a Twitch streamer for over a year now, and none of this would have been possible without you guys. Thank you for supporting me and what I do by liking, sharing, and commenting under my videos, and also watching my streams and hiring me for some Hearthstone coaching too. And also a huge thank you to today's video sponsor, Gemstone Legends. Sponsorships like this really help me keep on doing what I do for you guys, so I would really appreciate it if you check out this cool new puzzle RPG game. This is a match colors game with incredible lore, and you can play it on the go too, since the games take only 1 or 2 minutes each. So it's also perfect for you while you're waiting for your next Hearthstone match, or while you're waiting for that goddamn control warrior to click his hero power for 1,000th time.
I must choose!
I really like the art, and the gameplay is really cool too, because you get to make free moves per turn, which makes for some really cool strategies, and it can result in some huge combos too. And don't forget, the game is also completely free to download and play. Gemstone Legends has outstanding reviews both on iOS and Android, so it really is a true gem. Get it? Gemstone Legends? Gem? So if you're looking for a cool new game, Gemstone Legends would be a perfect match for you. Get it? It's a match colors game? Whatever. You can find me in game under the name Kris05, and if you use my code in the description, you will receive $50 worth of prizes in game, which is really gonna get you off to a flying start. Download Gemstone Legends today. Or tomorrow, it also works. The next deck on the list is gonna be Ramp Kazakhstan Druid, which obviously is using new cards from the mini set. The game plan here is simple: ramp as fast as you can, get your Kazakhstan, and start getting those OP treasures. We also have Malagos for some extra draw, and we also have Raid Boss onyxia, which can be pretty cool as well. And by the way, if you guys didn't know by now, Immune is actually something like Stealth, aka the opponent cannot target this with sap-like effects, freezes, destroys, or damage, which you already knew about. The only way you can hit her with a freeze or something like that would be with a mass effect or a random targets effect. So yeah, if there's still whelps on the board, good luck targeting onyxia. I learned that the hard way. We also have Cenarian Wars in here, which really help you gain some armor and cheat out some good 8 drops. Scale of onyxia is also pretty good for some clearing. And we have the typical ramp tools, as well as Solar Eclipse to double up some of those cool spells. Matchup wise, it's pretty polarizing, and basically fast decks will be punishing you, whereas slow decks are gonna get punished by you. So yeah, if you're living in a fast meta, it's probably not gonna be super amazing for you. Mulligan wise, this is what it looks like when going first. Wildcard Guff is always gonna be a keep. Overgrowth and Innervate also makes a lot of sense, and Kazakhstan too. I also like keeping Lightning Bloom, Nature Studies, and Wild Growth as well, but obviously these at the top are your best bets. When on the coin, it's pretty similar, and I would dare say it's basically the same. Guff is still MVP, same as Overgrowth in Kazakhstan. Lunar Eclipse makes a lot of sense if you're against an aggro deck, and against some card draw, ramp, and all of that good stuff. This deck is not too cheap, but let's not forget 2 of the legendaries in here are actually from the new mini set, which you should have bought for gold anyway. And we also have Malagos, which is a core card as well. So the only real card you need to be crafting is Wildcard Guff, which is a no-brainer honestly, and I do believe it will get nerfed at some point in time. It's just too good. Other than that, for Druid we also have Beast Druid, which you guys can check out videos for from my channel, and also Spell Druid, which is a similar version with Kazakhstan and Raid Boss onyxia, but it has a little bit less survivability and some more interesting spells to go for board-centric situations. Taunt Druid is actually also still okay, which is basically Drekthar Druid. So for Druid again, you have plenty to choose for, and the good news is they're actually very different archetypes, so the opponent will not know how to mulligan against you. Moving down to the next deck, which is extremely fast. Aggro Shadow Priest. Aggro Shadow Priest really punishes slow decks like Spell Druid and Ramp Druid, and you can kill those as soon as turn 4. Not even kidding, turn 4 lethals are no strangers to this guy. The game plan is simple. Spam small minions on the board early, and with Void Touch Attendant, each of those deals 1 extra damage, which really starts piling up fast. We have Iron Deep Trogs in here, which really put a kink in the spell heavy decks plan. We have a lot of card draw and some shadow spells too. We're also running Mankrik, which feels a little bit iffy honestly. And we also have Mr. Smite, which is here for the finisher, but don't forget that Defias Leper is also actually a pirate. Took me a while to figure that one out. This deck is actually cheaper, running Kulturan Chaplain, which helps you stick minions a little bit easier, but also if you have the legendaries Najak, as well as Serena, that can feel pretty good. And that deck is also doing pretty fine, but yeah, it's 2 niche legendaries which you really probably don't want to be crafting for Priest. Yeah. Matchup wise, Beast and Taunt Druids might feel a little bit hard for you, but honestly it's not that bad of a matchup. Quest Hunter will be pretty bad because they get to remove everything you put on the board, and same goes for Mages, as long as it's not Mazaki. Libram Paladin is 50-50, Control Priest would be horrible, as well as Control Warrior, Alticay Warrior, and also both Burn and Bolmer Shaman. But all in all, you should be able to climb, even against the bad matchups. Mulligan wise, when going first or second for that matter, you're always gonna want your Void Touched Attendant and your Iron Deep Trog. Peasant also makes a lot of sense. Wriggling Core can be pretty good if you feel like you will be sticking some minions early on. Defias Leper is also not bad, but don't forget you need to have a shadow spell with him, so if you're keeping Defias Leper, you might want to also keep something like Raise Dead, or at least Thrive in the Shadows. But Raise Dead would definitely be the perfect pick here. Mankrik's acceptable, Torguide is pretty okay as long as you don't waste your hero power on the opponent's face, and Kulturan Chaplain can help you stick your early game minions longer. When going second, like I said, Void Touched and Trog are pretty good, and Wriggling Core becomes even better, because you get to coin him out with another 1-drop on turn 2 for instance. Raise That plus Defias Leper also pretty good, Peasant is acceptable, Torguide still pretty strong, and Guardian can be used offensively or defensively. All in all, this seems like a somewhat expensive deck, but it really isn't. Mr. Smite was from a mini set, Mankrik was free, so you only need Dark Bishop, and a couple of epics, so it's really not that bad. For other priest decks, after we see all of the aggro shadow at the top, we also have Control Priest, Big Priest, and Miracle Priest can be an absolute monster of a deck, but you really need to know what you're doing with that deck, like seriously, it's not an easy deck, so if you're not up for that challenge, do not waste your dust on this one. Moving on to the next deck, which is Quest Hunter. The reason why Quest Hunter is so good right now is because how popular Burn Shaman is, and this deck really shines against those. Quest Hunter got a cool new addition with Dragonbane Shot included, and it can really help you advance your quest really fast, really early. We're also running Professor Slate in here, which makes all of your spells poisonous, so a single bola shot can kill 3 beefy minions at once. And we also have Barakotobane for some excellent card draw for you. The Venomous Scorpion discovers extra cheap spells for you, as well as Wandmaker, and the rest is basically damaging spells, with which you get to finish the quest fast and start cycling your hero powers. Matchup wise, it looks pretty polarizing again, and you are gonna be horrible against the greedier Druids, and not amazing against Quest Rogues and Miracle Priest either. But as you can see, everything else is deep in the green, so again, climbing is not gonna be a problem. When going first, this is what it looks like. You are gonna want your cheap damaging spells so you can finish the quest nice and early, but you can also consider cards like Barakotobane and Ringling's Rifle. But honestly, they feel a little bit too pricey, honestly. When on the coin, Barak becomes a little bit more keepable because you get extra cards early on, but again, getting cheap damaging spells is what you're looking for real. There are other versions of this deck, including a Drektar variant, which is looking pretty promising, but it doesn't have enough stats yet, so there's that. All in all, this one is a little bit on the pricier side, so keep that in mind, but it definitely looks pretty promising so far. For other good Hunter decks, you could go for Face Hunter obviously, which is arguably the better deck, but honestly Quest Hunter feels amazing right now as well. So yeah, keep that in mind. This is a more secret heavier version, with also multicasters involved, so that's pretty interesting. So yeah, it's basically iterations for Face Hunter, Quest Hunter, and Drektar Quest Hunter, so the choice is yours. And the last deck on the list I think should be Buff Paladin. Buff Paladin feels extremely strong because it's countering all of the greedy Druid decks, as well as Quest Hunters too. So you can definitely climb some easy ranks with this one. It is utilizing Trogs again, so you can punish all of the spell heavy decks. It has a lot of Divine Shields, so it makes it really hard to deal with, and we also have Carol at the end, because she is just that good. We have Blessing of Authority and Sunwing Squawker, which repeats it, so that can be a lot of stats for most opponents to handle. You have Cult Neophytes again to slow down spell heavy decks, and a lot of cheap stuff and buffs to go with it. The games are pretty fast and pretty reliable too. And we have Mr. Smite at the end, whose sole purpose is to get buffed in your hand, either with Cariel or just with some Alliance Bannermen. You don't really run any pirates in here, so he's just there for the charge basically. Matchup wise, faster Druids might be a problem, as well as Ping Mage. Aggro Shadow Priest and Control Priest are also not great, as well as Quest Rogue, Boner OTK Shaman, and Burn Shaman. Control Warrior is also pretty iffy, but again, all in all, you should be climbing with this one easily. When on the coin and when going second, Trog is always gonna be a great keep. Blade Master Samuro makes a lot of sense. Kero Rome could be interesting against board-centric matchups, Knight of the Anointment is susceptible, Cult Neophyte against spell-heavy decks, and even Cariel makes the cut in some cases too. When on the coin, again Trog, Guardian Arc Merchant either defensively or offensively, Stoneheart Vindicator is amazing, and you can keep it when going first as well. Noble Mount could be a pretty good follow-up if you already have a good one-drop. Samuro again pretty good, and Lightforced Cariel. I'm not sure why Mr. Smite is this high, by the way. That doesn't make much sense now, does it? Alliance Bannerman makes sense in both cases again. This one is actually the most expensive deck on the list, but technically you can build it a bit cheaper, without Murger for instance. Keru's a no-brainer, and Mr. Smite is again from a mini set, so it's not that expensive. For other Paladin decks, obviously Libram Paladin is still strong, and that's about it. Secret Paladin, I don't know. The sample size is just too low for this to be true. For the decks I didn't mention today, Demon Hunter almost made the cut with Quest Fell Demon Hunter, but it's not a simple deck to pilot, so I decided not to go with it today. Death Rattle Demon Hunter is still working okay in lower ranks, Just Fell Demon Hunter is okay, Just Quest Demon Hunter is also okay, but it's definitely a hard deck to master. With mages we have Ping Mage working pretty good in lower ranks, but Mazaki Mage is what really works in high legend, so keep that in mind if you're strong enough with Mage. Big Spell Mage is also okay. For rogues, Quest Rogue is still pretty good, even though it did got nerfed a bit. Thief Rogue is actually doing great in higher legend. And Poison Rogue is also a deck that actually still works in high legend as long as you can play it properly. For Warlocks we have Quest Hand Warlock and LTK Warlock. And those two are what Warlock is looking like right now. There's a 50% win rate Zoo Warlock, but I wouldn't advise you to waste your time with that one. And there are some Control Warlocks out there, but they're not really in positive win rate yet. And for Warrior, we have Control Warrior with Kazakhstan at the end, Charge Warrior with Captain Galvangar, and Pirate Warrior is still acceptable, even though obviously people do not really want to be playing a nerfed deck. So that's gonna be it for this video, guys. I hope this top 5 helps you figure out what you want to be playing in the last season of this Hearthstone year. Don't forget to download Gemstone Legends from the links in the description. Thanks for watching, I'm Kris05 and I'll see you in my next video or stream.